All right, the meeting is live.
Okay. I would like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, May 26th. It is 1:04 p.m. Here on the Zoom platform. And we have very little on the agenda today, but we do have a number of appointments from the administration coming to the Finance Committee for review. And we will be interviewing Spring Moore, Jen Wilson, and Ann McDonald for appointments to the Brandon Park Commission and the Blighted Property Review Board. Just to let all you ladies know, or all the ladies who are here with us right now, the Finance Committee doesn't make, none of our committees, we interview in committee for the appointments. We don't make a recommendation. It's not like an official thing where we're going to make a vote or anything. It's just a conversation about the work of the committee and what you perceive what you think that you might add to it. If you've already served on the committee or commission, then we generally talk about your past service and what you think that the city should be trying to do or trying to implement in the area. So I believe, I actually did not pull up the agenda here. I believe that Jen, I think you're the first interview. But actually, if it's okay with everyone, I might start with Spring, because Spring, you're the standalone for Brandon Park, which means that, and then we can kind of have a conversation when Ann can join us about the Blighted Property Review Board, a longer conversation. Oh, excuse me, we have one other. Yes. So we also have on our Finance Committee meeting today an appointment. Item number 1 is an appointment to the Williamsport Water and Sanitary Authority, Ms. Laura Templeton. The full body of City Council, or most of us at least, did interview Ms. Templeton in a separate meeting per the rules and restrictions associated with the motion we filed against the previous administration to try and force the previous administration to appoint people to the Water and Sewer Authority. So we've actually already spoken with Ms. Templeton, and I don't believe that she's in attendance today. Is that accurate, Chris?
No, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Laura. We're talking to you again?
I was invited, so I thought I better.
Well, that's lovely. We're pleased to have you. But you've already kind of done your time, I think, with the council interview process. Bonnie, did you have any additional questions for Ms. Templeton?
No, not at all. Just again, thank her for her stepping forward here. Appreciate it tremendously.
Yeah, we really appreciate your willingness to serve. And just for the record, Ms. Templeton, I believe, will be replacing Mr. Nichols Sr., whose term expired in January on the Water Authority Board, and she'll be serving a term from 2020 to 2025. We really appreciate your willingness to take on this role, but it's the Water Authority Board is a really exciting, it's a neat group of people, and it's really exciting work, but it can be sometimes politically fraught, and certainly there's kind of a steep learning curve. So having someone who's already completed some of that learning curve is going to be a huge help to us on the authority. But with that, I don't think that you need to stay in the meeting unless you'd like to watch us grill the rest of these folks. So if I don't think I have any further questions. Bonnie, you don't have anything further. Derek, was there anything further you wanted to say about Ms. Templeton's nomination?
No, just echo what you all said. Thank you, and I appreciate and I look forward to you serving on the board. Okay,
excellent. Then we'll move on from item number 1 to item number 2 on the agenda. Or excuse me, I think we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda. The appointment to the Brandon Park Commission of Spring Moore. Real quick, Derek, have you heard from Ann McDonald yet?
Yeah, she's trying right now. It's the same thing that Jennifer said earlier. She got that private message, so we're working on it.
Yeah, we never get everybody on the Zoom meeting at the same time that we intend to. Okay, so Spring, you are interested in serving on the Brandon Park Commission, is that right?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. And you will be serving a term that ends in 2024. So it's a 4-year service period. Can you talk to us a little bit, and maybe you and Derek both. Derek, do you want to introduce Spring?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So Spring obviously is an extremely passionate member of our Williamsport community. She's a teacher in the Williamsport School District. As she said earlier, prior to the meeting, she does many roles in our district: OM, Odyssey of the Mind, graduation, and on and on. She does a lot for our community, not just our district. And so we are looking forward to having her be a part of the Brandon Park Commission, and I think she absolutely will add value to that commission. And I thank her for her willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Katz, do you have any, would you like to start the
Yes.
discussion?
First of all, thank you very much, Spring. I love your name, by the way, Spring
Oh,
Moore.
thank
My gosh, it's a great name.
Thank
I love that you work with Odyssey of the Mind, and which would mean that you're very creative also.
Yes.
So therefore, I think you're going to be such a tremendous asset to be on the Brandon Park Commission, especially with what's going on there with the play area and everything else that's being expanded into the park. I think you're going to be able to add so much more with your creativity. And I think they'll probably be looking forward to working with you, as well as we'll be looking forward to hearing some of your fresh ideas also. So thank you very much again.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't we talk a little bit about, well, you live pretty close to the park, Spring, right on Market Street, a couple of blocks up? Okay.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? What do you think that we should be, I mean, do you have any ideas for what we should be implementing in the park? Do you think that there's anything where the city is not doing a good job there that we should be working on? Let's talk about recreation in the city of Williamsport and how it serves your kids.
Well, what I have loved about the opportunities in Williamsport is there's been an increasing awareness of accessibility. My oldest son, many of you know, uses a wheelchair. So I love to see how much more cognizant we are of that, even just getting to the park, and how much more has been done with all of that. We have enjoyed as a family, like the events. I love the Festival of Lights and things like that we offer in the park. I'm sure that we could maybe even brainstorm other ideas when it's safe to gather, to get people to the park to enjoy those things for sure. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful resource for our community. And I think that there are lots of ideas for things that we could do to safely, get people out to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy all that our city has to offer. I think things like the park bring people together. There's nothing political about the park. We can all enjoy that respite that is offered there. So I definitely think that we do a great job. We do. I've been so impressed with the things that we have, but it would be neat to, consider maybe some more things to do to get people out to our park for sure.
Yeah. I would agree. I would say in Brandon Park specifically, in the upcoming year or two, we're facing a couple of sort of decision-making points. We currently have 3 ball fields at the park, and I think that our utilization of baseball and softball spaces in the city is dropping off a little bit. So we've got some in a park that really is fairly heavily utilized, I think, by the public. We've got some space that is underutilized just because it's dedicated to uses that we don't that aren't as popular within the city as they used to be. So I think part of the work that will fall to the commission is trying to figure out a path forward for the park. I mean, we know the upper part of the park has, ever since it was designed, been basically passive recreation, walking, people stop and eat their lunches there, they walk their dogs, etc. And then the lower part of the park has always been a little more active recreation. But I think we have some, it seems to me like we're doing a major renovation of the park right now, but we will need to continue with a slight revisioning process of those ball fields and how we plan to either keep them up or turn them into something that is of more use.
Sure. I don't know.
To that,
there's been, because my son has played ball there in the last couple of years, multiple times. per season. It seems like there seems to be some kind of confusion, I don't know, at least among parents as to who maintains them and that sort of thing. And, so I think that that's probably part of, I think they would be utilized more if they were, maintained.
Yeah. Well, I think for years there have been a lot of things in our parks where we've relied on, a lot of situations in our parks where we've relied on maintenance by parents and clubs and users of the facilities. And nationwide, some of that's starting to break down because you have so many parents working, and even parents working 2 jobs, and you know what I mean. And so I'm not certain if it's a conversation we need to have about how we handle maintenance there, or if it's a conversation we need to have about whether or not we need to be hanging on to all 3 of those fields. But that is something that I think will almost certainly be a Brandon Park Commission, should be one of the focuses of the Brandon Park Commission moving forward. That and some really stellar programming in the park next year, because Lord knows we don't have any this year. And so we need to, and we already have, we have the space there by the pool house that we going to need to figure out a new use for now that the pool's been decommissioned.
Sure.
It's a really neat park, but I think we have a handful of issues that we'll need to, just tackle like we do anything else anywhere else. And I'm not quite certain what the city's plan is, but we've got a lot of deforestation in the park the last couple of years from these major storms. Brandon has been sort of ideally located to get hit and lose a lot of really large trees. So that's something that we need to be looking for grant funding or maybe private contributions for new trees in the park that'll give us some of the same tree cover we've had in years past.
Sure.
But it's a gorgeous park, and we all spend a lot of time up there, and I'm sure your littler ones do. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Nice. And I don't know, Derek, I'm sure has talked to you about the time commitment. It's like a once monthly meeting, more or less. But then also most of our Brandon Park Commission folks volunteer for activities in the park, for events in the park. And you're aware of that, right? Like things like homemade days and all that jazz, the Easter egg hunt.
No, I wasn't aware, but that would be fine.
Okay. I think that's always been sort of a couple of our commissions are sort of work-oriented commissions, and the Brandon Park Commission is one of them, because the park hosts so many different events through the course of the year. So we hope that our commission members are active and involved in the events in the park. But Mrs. Katz, anything further? Anyone else on the meeting anywhere have any further input?
It might behoove you to, there was a study done of our parks, and it might behoove her and be helpful for her to give her some ideas of some of the other ideas that were brought forward. How many years ago was that, Liz, that they did the park study?
The CEDACOG study?
Yes.
That was 2010, I think, but that didn't cover Brandon.
There was one that did, we did have a meeting about the Brandon Park, and I think Debbie Allison would probably know.
Yeah,
remember that one.
I think the CEDACOG study didn't cover Brandon. That was Los and Young's Woods and Shaw Place, or not. It wasn't Shaw either. Sorry, but it was kind of our smaller parks, like our neighborhood parks, not our community-wide parks.
Well, there was a meeting with minutes and everything about Brandon Park, and I think you'll get more information when you sit down with the commission as far as what has been done, what they're looking for, and ask about the study, because there were a couple of meetings that were held about Brandon Park, which was because I know I went to a couple of them, and it was really interesting what some of the, and it was done with community members. So, people like you that live around the park, and a lot of people that use the park. I remember Megan Lehman was one of the ones, Liz, that really interested in what was going on in the park. So
we did that survey.
That's it. It was the survey.
Yeah, I think that might have been part of putting together the package that we utilized, that we're utilizing the DCNR grant for right now.
It's going to be exciting for you, Spring. It really is, because there's so much to be done.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon Park.
Like it's going to be a fun challenge for sure.
Exactly, exactly.
That's neat. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments from anyone else, then I think we'll thank you for your time today, Spring, and you can get back to handing out caps and gowns. and, and, um, and Bonnie and we'll get on with the meeting here, but thanks a lot for coming, and we will, you know, when we get to the full body of council on Thursday, the Zoom meeting for that will represent sort of your comments and talk a little bit about the Brandon Park Commission with council and represent you to them. I'm trying to remember, there's no particular reason for you to attend the Thursday meeting. You're welcome to if you'd like to, and Chris can send you an invite. But the only really good reason to come to a council meeting when you're up for appointment to a committee or commission is to get sworn in, but we can't do that via Zoom. So you will at some point have to stop by the city clerk's office and take care of that, coordinate that with her when she's in the office.
Okay, sure.
That's right, Janice, right?
That's right, Liz. So anytime,
right
if you
people in
want to text me or call me, I'd be glad to come in at her convenience.
Okay, sounds excellent. All right, lovely. Then thank you very much, Spring. We appreciate your time.
All right,
Thank you, Spring.
thanks.
Okay.
Now I have to
Liz,
figure out.
before you go any further, do you notice all the women that are on the screen for this meeting? I love it.
Nice, isn't it?
We overrun you this time, guys.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
the start of a changeover, I think here. We'll see. All right, so next up on our agenda, well, we're actually, excuse me, we're still on item number 1, but we're looking at 2 appointments to the Blighted Property Committee. Ms. Jennifer Wilson and Ms. Ann McDonald. Are they both here on the call now? Sorry,
Yes, they're both here, Liz.
Great.
Yeah.
Still figuring out how to use this platform in the sense of seeing who all is sitting in the room with us, quote unquote. Okay, so Ms. Wilson and Ms. McDonald, I believe that both of your appointments are the result of an expansion of the Blighted Property Committee that we authorized, that we voted on about a month and a half ago, something like that. Is that right there? Where we've included a couple more members of the community who are not members of the administration or specifically called out as members of other committees, which is exciting because it's a committee that does really important work, and I think the more citizen participation we have from within the city, the better the work that it can do. Derek, you want to introduce these 2 ladies and maybe they can talk a little bit about their interest in their service? Okay.
Sure. So first we have Jennifer Wilson, who has obviously, as I said, with Spring, a passionate member of the community, very active, of course, in the community, not just with First Community Foundation Pennsylvania, but with her daughter and other activities. And so, again, her and her husband are extremely important citizens of our community as well that play active roles. And so I'm excited to have her interested in joining a board. And likewise with Ann McDonald, she also is very active in the community, in the district, and just again, passionate about our community, cares about our community, a realtor in our community, so very familiar with real estate, obviously. And so looking forward to her appointment or possible appointment to the Blighted Property as well.
Excellent. And ladies, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about what specifically about this committee and its work is of interest to you, that might be a nice way to start.
Sure, I can go first. So I think this is an area that impacts, has far reach in our community and probably isn't thought a lot about when you consider a city. But I think that when we think about the different committees and conversations that we hear from a city level, you don't hear a lot about blighted property, at least you haven't in the past several years. And yet I think it has a great impact on how we present ourselves as a community, about people wanting to live and work and thrive in our community. And I think it can have an impact on how people take pride in our community. And all of those things are important for a thriving city. And I truly believe sort of as goes the city, will go the county, and thus will go the region. And I believe Williamsport is the start of that.
I think those are all true observations. Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Ms. McDonald, is there any, what do you think that it interests you most in the Blighted Property Committee and service on it? Ms. McDonald, you might be on mute.
Yeah, you're muted.
A lot of us are.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Other speakers that I forgot to click on. You know, being a realtor with Fish Real Estate, you know, I'm around housing and, you know, different neighborhoods all the time. I especially work with a lot of doctors and a lot of professionals that are relocating to the community from out of state and out of area. So, you know, oftentimes doing community tours, you know, we're showing them all aspects of the city. And I just, you know, I think that this is something that is important for us to address. And again, sort of going on what Jen said too, sort of having pride in our community and in our area. And like I said, with just sort of being out there and being in the housing industry and market and being around so many new people and bringing all these possible families into the community. It's just, I think it's a way in which I can, you know, be involved and again, sort of just have an impact and have pride in our community.
Excellent. Well, I think that's, it seems to me that both of you already have and the both of you can obviously bring something with your different experiences to the committee, but also you both have an understanding of the needs of the city. And I think you're both right that we have a really beautiful city that already suffers, to me, from a little bit of a self-esteem problem, and that's it's not helped when we have property owners who are not maintaining their properties in a way that makes us proud as a community of the look of our city. So I think that the Blighted Property Committee actually serves or can serve a really important function for the city of looking at city housing stock, city you know, industrial and retail and et cetera stock, and trying to make certain that we're putting our best foot forward and putting our best face, I suppose, forward as well. It's the way that we look will indeed, for better or for worse, I think, help dictate the pride of our citizens and the willingness of people who are relocating to the area to invest themselves in our community. And that's key. Mrs. Katz, did you have any questions?
No questions. I'm just pleased that we have two wonderful women who really know our community and also take pride in our community. So really pleased that you're going to be on this committee, and thank you very much.
Derek, can you remind me who else is currently serving on the committee?
Pat Marty, and hang on a second, I can pull up. Pat Marty goes through 2022, I believe, right, Janice Frank? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I have it here, Liz, one second.
Stephanie Young, and you have a representative from the Planning Commission.
And Councilman Palizzi is the representative from council, Stephanie Young from Community Development, and a representative from Planning, who is, I believe Pat Marty is the representative from Planning Commission.
Okay. Oh, so we need one more member then, right?
We may need one, maybe.
Okay. But no, I don't think Pat Marty's.
No, Derek, he's from Redevelopment Authority.
Redevelopment, that's right. He's from redevelopment.
He's
Sorry
the
about that.
Okay, representative. So we might need a rep from planning. In other words, if we haven't selected one yet. But
We have 3 citizens at large.
and of those, are we looking at appointing 2, Janice, or do we have a third appointment? Do we have someone already serving who's a citizen at large?
It was Janet McDermott, but hers is
We
expired.
have, right. So we have one more to appoint, and we have Jen and Ann today for the 2
Okay,
citizens.
so we'll have to contact Janet, excuse me, I guess, and see if she's interested re-upping for service. But or or look at other appointees. Anyway, yeah, I think this committee can become politicized, and I would encourage us not to let that happen. I think that was part of the point of expanding the citizen membership of it. It's very important work. Trying to, there's the city tries to offer as much as we can, both carrots and sticks, when it comes to anything, property maintenance, crime, et cetera, in the community. And the Blighted Property Committee's role is that predominantly of the stick, although of course if we can bring any carrots to bear, that's always a good idea too. But it's that doesn't make it less important. It's a necessary and vital role in the city to try and make certain that we're keeping all of our properties up, and to, I think, actively look for solutions to confront property owners who are not interested in actively maintaining their properties. If are there any further comments from anyone?
No,
Okay, Janice, the meetings for this committee are monthly, I assume?
Yes, they're monthly, and Joe Girardi is in charge of those.
Okay, so Joe schedules them?
Yes, they're scheduled. I don't have my appointment book. in
Yeah,
front of
it's
me.
okay. I don't either. I don't think nobody ever has anything handy anymore.
There's a meeting schedule set.
Okay, good.
And
There is a meeting schedule set, Jen. It's on as needed, but we obviously are looking now that we're coming on the other side.
Yeah, there are a lot of our committees don't necessarily need if there's no material for them. Hey, Derek, the one thing I'm noticing on the appointments list for the Finance Committee agenda is that both of these women's terms will expire in 2023. Is that what we want to do? Or do we want to stagger out the 3 citizen members?
We could stagger them. That's fine with me.
I'm not certain legally what I don't remember what the ordinance said. I apologize, but
Yeah.
but we should look and make certain that we're not losing a whole slew of members in 2023 or something. But
you already send us meeting dates that I should have on a calendar, or?
No, Jen, I did not yet.
Okay.
But I will get with Joe Girardi. We're working on that as well. On all of it now on the other side, and what that's going to look like in person, Zoom, et cetera. So we'll be in touch very soon, pending your approval from council, of course.
Yeah, so we will, so as I said, to spring, Jen and Ann, we'll take your appointments to the full body of council on Thursday. You're welcome to attend. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it unless there's anything you'd like to say to the full body of council. And at some point, if you are appointed, which I would anticipate that you will be, then it would fall to the, you'll have to come down to the city clerk's office and get sworn in at some point. And because City Hall is not fully operational right now, it would definitely schedule that with Janice prior to whatever the first meeting is. But yeah, and please, Mr. Palizzi will obviously be the council rep, but I think every member of council at some point or another has vented about blighted properties in the city and how we can help to improve the situation. So if either of you are looking for, to kind of spitball strategies or anything like that with anyone, I think any of us would be more than happy to sit down and chat if that would serve you. So please look at all of us on council as a resource, and I'm certain the administration functions that way as well. Bonnie, if you don't have anything else.
nothing more. Just
Okay.
again, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for being willing to serve, ladies. It's wonderful to find people who are willing to serve in their community and who have the knowledge and the experience to really to provide benefit to our committees and commissions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Then we have one further item on our agenda today. Well, 2 further items, if you count any related items. Item number 2 is a resolution of the Williamsport City Council authorizing the submission of an application for funding from the RACP grant from the Redevelopment and Capital Assistance Program grant for $600,000 for Bowman Field Stadium renovations Phase 2. Mr. Pavlak, you're introducing this item?
Sure. This resolution is a resolution that's necessary to comply with the Commonwealth's procedure for submitting a RACB application. Previously, the administration put a request into the Office of Budget requesting $600,000 or funding for Phase 2 renovations to Bowman Field. Renovations which included renovations to the visitors clubhouse, the umpires clubhouse, expansion of the press box, and a scoreboard or video board. If council will recall, or those that were here in previous years, council did approve a resolution related to the clubhouses and press box expansion related to this overall process. This resolution before you allows us to submit the application and finalize things with the Commonwealth Office of Budget to complete the funding package for the overall project. So with that, we'll submit the full application and then wait to hear back from the Commonwealth that everything's been accepted or what special conditions they may require related to this overall project.
Okay. So just to go over this briefly, Joe, this is sort of a formality, correct? The way that redevelopment and capital assistance funding works, we receive notice of the award and then we fill out the lengthy application required to actually receive the award.
That's correct. The RACB program has an application which includes, I want to say, 17 to 20 individual components. I think that I've included the first two components in the packet that was sent out to everyone. This is just one of the items that's requested in that full application, which Delta Development's been working on with us to get completed.
Okay. And there's no reason to anticipate that the funding structure on this would change or funding amount would change related to the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic, anything like that?
Not to my knowledge at this point. This is a one-to-one match. So if we receive $600,000 from the Commonwealth, we'll be required to match it with 600 of additional projects, which I believe that the funding was provided in the packet submitted.
We've been talking about this for a couple of years now. This is just a sort of dotting I's, crossing T's measure. Well,
I'll agree. Yes, this is the formality to finalize things and one of the last pieces that are needed in the full application.
Okay. Mrs. Katz, do you have any questions about this item?
The only thing is the bids are going to start going out in another month or two, right?
Yeah, we expect over the summer to do the second phase of the second phase project. As indicated earlier, we did the construction of the renovations to the clubhouses and press box. The remaining component is the video board, scoreboard, which as Councilwoman Katz was indicating, we anticipate having bids let this summer for award in the fall with final completion in the spring of 2021.
Joe, as you said, this is one of the last components. All of my information papers are at the store, and at home I don't have anything here. There were a list of what was needed to be done at Bowman Field. When you say last component, there's very little left that was on the list, right?
I think when I was speaking of last component, it's the last component to this project.
To this
I think that
project.
there are requests that the Cutters Club may have, but I think, and I'd have to pull out the last lease agreement, that we're satisfying a lot of the items that were on their radar. And while it may not be 100% complete list, I think that by working through what we're working on, that it satisfies them to continue forward.
And to be clear also with the scoreboard, video board, this money has to be specifically used for that. So I know there was some discussion, could we use it elsewhere? This was, Senator Yaw specifically went to bat for us for the scoreboard for this.
That I understood that between the governor and Senator Yaw, the scoreboard was the most important factor right now because they're the ones that wanted to see that. Of course, everything is at a standstill right now, but let's keep our fingers crossed that next year we'll be seeing it.
Mhm.
And I, like I said, the last component of this project, yes, can't wait till I get back to my store to pull out some of the other information to see where else we stand and if there's anything more we should be going after as far as funding goes. Thank you. Liz, you're on mute if you're talking.
Thank you, Connie. But if
I saw lips moving.
somebody mowing across the street and I thought I probably ought to mute it, and then of course I forgot. If there are no further questions or comments from anyone on the administration, I'll take a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks a lot for putting this together, Joe and Teresa from Delta. I know these applications are a lengthy process, and the RACP in general is a lengthy process, but the city's undertaken a lot of really incredible projects the last decade or more with the use of RACP funding, so it certainly has been a help to us. The final item on our agenda is item number 3, any related items? And we do have one related item since since Teresa Sparatino from Delta was on the call already. She's available to answer some questions about a funding matrix she provided for East 3rd Street, as well as Bowman Field and I think the very final elements of the Destination 2014 funding as well. So we're gonna have a little bit of a look at that. Bonnie, I don't know if you have that stuff on your laptop or.
No, I don't. Everything's at the store.
I've got hang on a sec. I've got Joe's email here. I can forward it on to you again so you have it to look at it.
He tried to forward something and I couldn't, it still didn't come down, Joe.
I'd say that I could try, and I don't know how to do it, share my screen, but
I think on the bottom there, Joe.
You
there's
have
a
to be
there's
a-
a
you
note.
have to be a host though, Joe,
Oh,
Well,
or
here,
a co-host.
Chris, can you share this for me? I don't know whether Bonnie will be able to read it, but I can get it out to you, and then maybe we can.
You just want to send it to me, Joe?
Yeah, just give me a sec.
Bonnie, I'm going to forward you this email as well.
Okay.
And there are 3 items attached to it, one of which is a funding matrix for East 3rd Street.
That's not the one that I sent. I apologize. The one that I sent, or what I sent to Bonnie earlier today was the funding matrix for the East 3rd Street project.
Yeah, this has the East 3rd Street project as well as let me pull that one up, sorry. RDAs from the
So that would have been, I probably sent that out around the 24th of April.
yeah, I think that's what I'm looking at here. Joe.
That would be before the meeting that we were going to talk about this. Okay.
Yeah, Monday, April 27th is when I got it. Yep. Yeah, and we were going to talk about it at that meeting, and I think we did actually maybe very briefly discuss it, but we decided that it might be easier to have. Oh, interesting screen share, Chris. Thank you.
Whoa. Wow, fantastic.
Okay. Well, now that we've all got it. Teresa,
All right.
yeah. Teresa, thank you very much for joining us today. We really
sure.
appreciate it. Chris, I love that you took over my screen, but I'm going to try and get back to where thank you. uh, where I was looking at this along with a couple other items. Okay. So I suspect, Teresa, that the majority of our questions are going to relate to the East 3rd Street summary that you sent along, since that's the project that's still sort of in operation. But can you
Yes.
give us a real quick overview, so we know that we're submitting the actual application for the RACP funding for Bowman? That project is currently looking as though it'll be within budget, I'm assuming. Have we seen any anticipated cost increases?
For the East 3rd Street? There have
Excuse
been
me,
some-
for Bowman. I was actually going to
Oh.
go for the other two projects just really quick, because East 3rd Street, I think, will be the meat of our discussion. So I kind of rather cover,
Okay.
yeah. So does Bowman look like it's on track for the budget that we had set up, which I think was 1.25 million?
Yeah, it has to be 1.2 because of the RACP grant is 600,000. Your
Right.
video board is being used to match construction work that's taking place now. I think there have been change orders, but they haven't been substantial. And actually, we needed a little bit more of project costs to make sure we meet the 600,000.
Okay.
So I think it is on track to stay within the budget of 1.25.
Fantastic. All right, excellent. Because we had that money, so that's always good news. And then Destination 2014, where do we stand with that item?
But there
Right.
is, go ahead, Joe.
Just to give an update from the administration standpoint, I just sent out this morning an amendment to that grant extending the grant period by 1 year through May 31st, 2021. So we're
To
not
the-
closed out on that. And
For TNT2, you mean, Joe?
yes, that is correct. We're still finalizing the payments with all of the contractors on that project. Therefore, we were required an additional time period to do that, which was the cause of extending the time frame through 2021.
Got it. And so in terms of the city still has, I'm assuming, an open line of credit associated with TNT2. What are we at, or with the whole project?
Not a line of credit, because the only line of credit that we have out there right now is for that the city has is the $2 million with Citizens in Northern Bank. And I believe that the funds that have been drawn down for that were tied to, and I'd have to pull this out to be sure, to confirm this, but I believe that the costs that were drawn down for that note were related to East 3rd Street.
Okay, yeah, that seemed to me that was the case mostly with that note. So we don't have any lingering loans associated with monies that we're waiting to be reimbursed for with Trade and Transit 2 / Destination 2014?
There are not any line of credits open related to those, related to that, to my knowledge.
Okay. Got it. And we don't have any other arms of the city? Like RBT doesn't have a line of credit?
Not in their name, no.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. All right. But we are still waiting on clearing up a bit of that funding, and we anticipate it being completely cleared up by 2021?
The RACP portion of it, correct?
RACP portion of it. What about, do we have any other outstanding?
The remaining piece of that contract, I'll need to pull some details, so
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay, I just trying to get a handle. I think it's easy to get confused on council when a project is completed. You think it's all just done, and usually there's still right, money to come in from elements of it that were paid for by grants, and or we owe money, and we have lines of credit out there that we are, or some sort of funding that we are paying on, and it pays, I think, to be aware of all of that, and oftentimes we are not.
I understand. We'll get something together on trading transit too.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Because
But to
there
move
would
on-
be Joe, there would be a small piece of reimbursement left under transit too for Nation 2014 for RACP.
Correct. Yep.
And did we actually receive that grant in 2014 or was it 2015?
Destination 2014 has been, I think that was 2014, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember that the project did not correspond to the 2014 deadline that was implied by the name, but I can't remember. I think the funding came to us before in 2014 or prior.
I think you're right.
Yeah. No, the original grant was executed on June 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
So I think that the intent of the project started in 2014, but it did take some time to pull everything together.
We are famous
But
for projects like that. Okay. Mrs. Katz, did you have any further questions about either of those items? Sorry, I'm not leaving a lot of space for questions.
No, everything came down, so I was able to look at this. And yeah, I know, Joe, you're going to get the rest of the information to us. But I don't have any other questions right now.
Okay. So then I think the major meat of our inquiry by and large, Teresa, was, and I am not getting my computer to work with me right now, was the details related to the East 3rd Street development.
Mhm.
Specifically, I think what initially excited some questions from council was we applied for a grant from we applied for a grant for some traffic signals at Market and 3rd and Mulberry and 3rd. And pardon me?
Green light go.
Which I think would be either our 2nd or 3rd green light go application in this project, correct? I'm not sure if we received any answers. Okay. And when we were discussing the matching funds that were required for the Green Light Go grant, it seemed as though there was a lack of clarity about whether or not there were any matching funds left in the project, even though I think our total matching fund allocation was, we had $500,000 from the city. We had at least 250,000 from the county. We had close to $1 million from the LEDF and $1 million from the First Community Foundation, correct?
You had 500,000 from the Community Foundation that was designated towards this.
And then the other $500,000 went to went to the college.
Mhm.
So that was sort of where the inquiry started, was, are there matching funds left over? And if so, what pots do they remain in? So if you could talk to us about that, that'd be good. But then also just how is the project going in terms of meeting the budgets that we have set by the individual grants?
City council's just asking questions.
Pardon me?
Who's doing this typical? I can't really answer that.
I'm sorry.
Chris, you're
it
not.
was,
Was Chris intending to be muted and not muted? Or was that a contribution? Anyway, I think most of us on council are just curious about how this project is coming down, if we have overages and engineering fees or anything like that associated with any specific elements, and where we're at in terms of tying up. Clearly, we all know the Basin Street portion seems to have been largely completed.
Mhm.
3rd Street's underway, but I know that we had the Willow Street Infrastructure Green Alley grant that was $1 million, and to the best of my knowledge, we haven't really moved on that at all. And we also had some streetscape funding that was going partly into East 4th Street, east of Basin, but potentially also going to extend west of Basin. I'm just trying to get a sense of where we are with all that, and whether or not we're staying within budget on those projects.
Well, as it relates to I'll call it the East Third Street Gateway project, there have been change orders, but they're staying within that 5%. Any of the change orders for the PennDOT tip, and that's that 1.79 million, will be covered by PennDOT. If those start to exceed that 1.7, we can go back to PennDOT and request additional funds.
Excellent.
Everything else is staying on track. In fact, with the CFA, MTF, you can see that we're not going to use all of the grant money. We're about 10,000 under budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then Franklin and Basin came in under budget as well. So
Fantastic.
Franklin and Basin, I have the second request in for PennDOT that will include both those construction costs and the construction management. So we're tracking both construction management and Franklin to be able to use your Reynolds, what you're paying to Reynolds, as match for your grant so that we can capture as much of that grant money as possible.
Fantastic.
It's a 70-30 match.
Yeah. And then talk to us about matching funds, the matching funds that we received and the extent to which those are utilized by current commitments within the project and to which we might still have matching funds for other grants that we would like to apply to, or whether or not are there other grants we're seeking aside from that Green Light Go that we applied for earlier this year.
You have Willow Way is matched with your foundation fund, so you're good in that regard, and that should be paying for your design fees. I don't know if you have a contract yet with Larson and Design to design those streetscape improvements.
Does anybody know from the administration? I don't.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Okay.
So Willow Street is sort of the next phase.
Yes.
Willow and East Fourth, would that be accurate, Joe? Or have we already executed contracts for East Fourth?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So East
There's
Fourth.
no contract for East Fourth.
Okay. So East 4th Street is, the grant was 50,000, maybe 60, 640, in that range. That would require a 30% match. So
okay.
You'll need funds for that. You've got your Basin Street streetscape improvements, which was a GTRP grant. That's an 85-15 split. So you'll need 15% match for that project as well. I think that one, though, is under design, isn't it, Joe?
Which project?
That's the Basin Street, the GTRP for Basin Street.
Oh, you mean the one that goes
Riverwalk connector?
Yeah, Riverwalk connector. That's exciting.
That's been going on for some time. I will need to look at that one.
So I know we requested an extension in January.
That's under design up to underneath the highway, and then it ends at the pump station there.
And that's what the grant was for. It would end. It doesn't cross the railroad tracks or get close to the tracks. But so that would require some match money as well, 15% match.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So to what extent, I'm looking at the commitment that we've got. To what extent are those matches already included in the schematic that you sent us?
They're not included in this. This is just the work that's underway. And if you'll see at the bottom, the grant funds remaining from the LEDF and the First Community Foundation is already allocated. But in county funds or LEDF, you have about 90, almost 100,000 remaining.
Okay. And then the city's contribute. It seems to me that we had initially $500,000 in grant funding, or not grant funding, excuse me, in bond funding. that the city had allocated for a streetscape here. To what extent? I know that we've only got 175,000 promised so far.
In this phase of the project.
Yeah, so we do, so there's another 325,000, Joe, that remains for,
Not that remains. There were pieces, I think, of design work by Larson on the two-way traffic study between I'm gonna get my streets confused, Basin and Market. And then continuing from Market to Pine for a one-way bus lane. I'd have to pull out to see what has been spent and which components of those earlier projects may not have been split with the college.
okay. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand to what extent we've incorporated all of the funding that, and the totality of the project in this schematic. And it looks as though anything we haven't really undertaken design on yet, like Willow Street or East 4th, doesn't appear here. And GTRP also doesn't appear here.
No, it's not in here as well.
Um,
What I can do is create a second spreadsheet for projects that aren't underway or under design, and then that way you'll know the type of match monies are required for those.
I'm just trying to make certain that I think we'd initially assumed that between matching monies that were being spent by Lycoming College on their portion of the project and the frankly pretty substantial match allocations that we had, that there was going to be plenty of matching funding for all phases of the project. But it seems as though perhaps that's not working out entirely. So that's partly what I'm trying to kind of lock down, is whether we need to be looking for more funding for the project. And if so, what kind of timeline that's on. But
my concern is, Liz, all the matching funds that we're going to have to come up with at this point. I think we need the other spreadsheet to know exactly where we stand right now and where all the funding is being closed out and what is still open at this point also.
Exactly. Hey, Chris Cooley, can I interrupt real quick? I'm waiting for you to let me into this meeting on my phone. I apologize, because I think I'm about to lose my my computer out here.
Did it let you join? I've admitted you twice.
All right, now it just did. Thank you. Okay. I'll get out on the other side, guys. Sorry.
I muted your computer, so I mute your phone.
All right. I apologize, guys. Okay. Sorry, I just batteries are a weird fact of life in my world right now. Nothing ever lasts quite as long as you anticipate. So yeah, it seems like we need a schematic of both upcoming project elements that we obviously don't necessarily have a budget for, better than the application budget that we initially established.
Okay.
But and then current project cost. It's good to know that things seem to be mostly coming in within that 5% contingency. Correct? That was what you're saying at, Teresa? Good. And I think that.
Can I ask a question? Is Russell Inn still on the boards for this?
We were denied the grant.
We were denied the grant?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's
That was
not
last year.
Yeah. That's not to say, Bonnie, that it couldn't still be part of the project, but we did not receive the funding we requested from DCNR last year. So we would need to either resubmit in an upcoming budget year or look for another grant source.
Just question, because I haven't heard a word about it. So I was just, wondering where we stood with it. Okay.
Yeah. I think that is a question that we need to have. And I mean, frankly, maybe given that this is one of the bigger projects still, you know, the biggest project that the city's currently working on, Derek, it might be that we should think about having some sort of a meeting at some point here in the next month or so, just looking at progress there and what the current vision for the project is, since it sounds as though it may be changing a bit if we're not pursuing Russell-In funding. You know what I mean? And my general understanding from Leroy at Delta years ago had been that we've gotten a lot of money for this project and that we weren't likely to get more. Teresa, would you say that is still true?
I don't necessarily agree with that. Mainly because, I mean, time has, I think the last award was made in 2018.
Got it.
Yeah. So, you know, we've completed our projects. We're in the process of completing the project. So no, I think that, you know, we've had a few years that has lapsed between funding cycles. So if you're looking towards putting another project together, I would encourage you to continue to try to secure additional funds.
Excellent.
Then we should pursue this then, Liz.
Yeah, well, I think maybe it's a conversation we should look at having then sooner rather than later. While since it seems like we need to pick up momentum on a handful of elements of this, like the Willow Streetscape plan, as well as the money that we got for East Fourth, then perhaps we should have a larger sort of overarching look at the scope of the project right now, and if there's anything else that we think we would need funding for within this project. If we want to continue to pursue a pocket park there where the Russell-In used to stand, if that's something that's not of interest to the current administration, I'm not putting any value judgments one way or the other, but now that we have a new administration in place, it's possible we should look at this project again and sort of decide what our priorities are here. Teresa, would you think that might be helpful in terms of moving forward with the project?
And C2P2 is the best source of funding for the Russell-In Heritage Park. So the next step, if you're not going to have a competing application in your other park systems, within your park system, then meeting with Wes Feringer from DCNR probably towards the end of this year, because the applications will be due in April.
For next year, DCNR funding?
Yes.
Because I know that we have an application in currently for one of our parks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just approved an application for one of our parks for this year.
Right. Yeah, we definitely had an application in for this year. Teresa, to what extent, I mean, is a municipality our size unlikely to receive 2 different DCNR grants in any given cycle?
In the same cycle, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember looking at the grant awards earlier this year from 2019, and like Allegheny County had gotten about, I don't know, $3 million.
Yeah, that's like a large county.
Yeah, I know there's really no comparison. I'm not, but I thought, well, maybe we're missing the boat here.
There's also the match to that also.
The other source to consider this year, because they've extended the deadline for GTRP. I mean, that maximum grant, there's 250,000. I can't remember what the budget was for Russell-In Heritage Park.
How many GTRP grants would they allow you to have open at one time?
They'll allow you to have more than one. Yes.
Because I know that we have one for Memorial Park.
Oh, you do?
That's open at this time. So I just didn't want to have that be
although that won't be open for much longer, right, Joe?
I think that's a discussion that we need to look to going forward. I think everything's able to move ahead. It's just a matter of is it the appropriate time? Right. And can we get it scheduled with everything else that's going on? Do we want people to congregate around the equipment, or should we hold off and install it at a later point?
Yeah, but I guess to the point, Teresa, the grant, we had received a grant for new park equipment at Memorial Park, and I believe our intention is certainly to install the park equipment at some point this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
As soon as we can. I mean, it's not something that we want to hold up, and I think that the contractor's ready to go. Now that we've opened up into the yellow phase, is it a smart decision from our standpoint to tell people we shouldn't be gathering and creating a place for them to gathering and encouraging it? So I'm not sure.
yeah, no,
Is Lycoming in the green phase yet? Are you almost in green?
we have no idea.
I don't know.
I thought you guys were
We're in
moving
the
to
yellow
green.
phase now, and we don't know when green's coming.
Oh, I thought you were moving to green this Friday with Tioga and the other counties.
Joe, anybody, Derek, is that true?
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, you're
We're
not
still
with
yellow.
Tioga?
No,
Okay.
Thank you.
but I would imagine, I have no idea, I don't, but our numbers, relatively speaking, would, possibly be in the green sooner rather than later.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like we should be entering the G phase, but I don't think any of us have heard that that's necessarily in the cards soon. It would be exciting. But anyway, in the meantime, right, the question of whether to install new parks equipment when we are not intending to let anyone play on it is kind of a fraught decision. Right. But it's going to take us at least a month to get it installed. So if we're looking at the green phase within the next month, it probably would.
It's quicker than that, but I think we're veering off target from the conversation with Teresa. My apologies.
No, you're absolutely right. Thank you for putting that up. So if we had one GTRP application that was open but was likely to be or one set of funding that is open but is likely to be more or less utilized by the end of the summer, Teresa, and then another set of funding for Basin Street that's likely to remain open for a little longer yet. Does that mean that we should hold off on applying for any additional funds there?
I don't know. Let me look at what that budget was. I mean, if your budget is like 1.2 million and the grant is only 250,000, it may not make sense to submit for a GTRP.
DCNR doesn't go over 250.
DCNR will, yes.
Well, no, I'm saying
GTRP won't.
Right.
Yeah, but our application to DCNR was not more than 250. I'm quite certain of that.
Oh, for the Russell Inn? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what the final budget for the Russell Inn project was, but I'm quite certain that our application for DCNR wasn't more than 250.
Okay.
So
I think it would make sense to submit an application. It doesn't hurt to submit an application. I mean, you're not penalized for submitting.
Right. Okay.
And the letters of support and within the narrative can talk about the fact that you do have other projects that have been funded with GTRP and those are proceeding and moving forward. And here's the anticipated completion date. But this is, providing recreation within an urban area, which I think would be, would fit within the, the goals of the GTRP program.
Okay. Joe?
Just the budget for this one, I think overall was around the 350 mark.
Yeah, I was thinking that the DCNR app was actually more like 180 or something. So,
Okay.
but Joe, so I guess the questions that we would need to answer then are: does the administration currently have any interest in a park or a parklet on that site still? And is the look of the parklet still the design that we'd submitted an application to DCNR for? But then the other question is, I don't remember what the remaining funding for the match for the DCNR grant was, and does it exist?
Foundation funds.
Oh,
And it's in the up on the screen right now, you'll see under the First Community Foundation partnership funds, all the way to it's kind of covered up by the screen that I'm looking at, but there's 132 of their funds set aside towards match.
Oh, that Oh, yeah, there we go. Russell and 132. Okay.
And then
So that
money for the Willow Way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Sorry.
Sure.
There are a lot of numbers moving around on this sheet here.
They're not moving everywhere, so.
Yeah.
And as for that, I guess I can't speak for the administration because I don't think we've had discussions on this. But we can definitely get together and determine the course regarding these projects as to, and I think work with Teresa to, we'll call it, put a phase 2. I think, you know, we can call phase 1 the Hallbaker contract, which Teresa and Delta have summarized for us now. I think that what the finance committee is looking for is to, where are we going from here? What are we doing to complete? We've named a number of components and putting together a matrix to find out where we're at with that and where we may need to seek funds versus what we have funds already allocated.
Right. Exactly. And I think I guess like I said, it's good to hear that we haven't really exceeded any of our budgeting by a substantial amount in East 3rd Street so far. If of course we discover something that makes that not the case, it'd be nice to know that. But what I'm really asking, I suppose, is, are we going to be able to make all the components, all the named components of the project happen with the funding that we have in place? And if not, for some reason, are there revisions that we want to look at now before we start the design phases on some of these elements to come to a better understand, you know, to help us better utilize the funding and put together a better project there. I think sometimes we start off on one of these large multi-component projects, and this, to the best of my knowledge, is one of the largest multi-component projects we've ever worked on in the city. But we start off on one of these projects and we sort of decide that everything that's part of the initial vision is going to get shoehorned in there somehow or another, and that doesn't necessarily need to be the way that it happens. So if it's the will of the administration to change the look of the project a little bit and it's feasible within the restrictions of the grant applications we've already submitted, now would be a good time, I think, to look at that and figure that out.
No, I think that the administration can work with Delta and put together the plans moving forward for the outstanding items. And then, you know, we can come back with the plan and determine what we may need or if we're all set. So I think that that's something that we can move on and come forward with.
Fantastic.
In the future.
Excellent. And Teresa, we appreciate that Delta is staying so on top of the funding here.
Sure.
To the extent if and when we have a matrix for currently sort of unslated funding and what our matches look like there, it would certainly be nice to see that as well.
Okay.
Bonnie, do you have other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We'll wait till we see the results of all the figures at this point, so we know exactly where we're going, and when the administration sits down and figures out what needs to be done at this point also.
Fantastic. Okay.
I'm also working on another spreadsheet. It takes all of your pay apps and then shows you what we've requested reimbursements for, so that you can keep track of that as well. I mean, it's helpful for us.
Got it.
I don't know if you've paid apps 6 through 8, and I can talk to Joe offline regarding that, but we could then submit a request through Greenlight Go, because that's the only source right now that we haven't submitted a request for.
Got it.
Those,
I guess the follow-up question related to reimbursement, that $2 million line of credit that we had authorized late last year, is that going to be sufficient to allow for the sort of reimbursement process? Are we going to run into any cash flow issues?
We're starting to see money come in that Delta's been requesting on our behalf related to these contracts or these grants. We're setting that money aside to utilize towards future reimbursements.
Okay.
I think council's aware that we can't draw it down, pay it back, and then draw it down again. So we're sitting on it. We're keeping it in a separate bank account that has a small balance of other funds for a previous project, but we're setting those aside to recycle as payments come forward. And now that construction started back up in the last few weeks, you know, we'll have money set aside with the reimbursements received.
Excellent. Okay. But so it seems as though that'll be a sufficient flow to enable us to pursue all these projects simultaneously.
The only, and I know that this has been brought up in the past, the RACB program does require bridge financing. So we would need to show that we had available funds and the number requested by the state. So there's a potential, I don't want to say that we need to, as long as we can show that those funds and we can show a plan that we'll have money available to make sure that we can pay everyone to be reimbursed down the road.
Okay. Got it. So you're talking about the Bowman money.
There are a number of projects that require these line of credits. I'm just saying that you're asking if there are anything that we could see potentially that we would need more money available in a line is what I was hearing, and maybe I misheard.
No, that's accurate.
But basically that's one that I could see because the state does require documentation that you do have something in place. And just to say we have a line of credit with a balance of X, that doesn't leave them any leverage for what they want to see for their project. So I'm just saying that I'm not saying that we need to do something. I'm just giving you the knowledge that it could be something.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Joe. And we appreciate Delta staying on top of the expenditures and the reimbursements, because that's going to help us keep our borrowing to a minimum there, which is welcome. Does anyone from the administration or from council have anything further to discuss on this particular any related item?
No.
Okay. Does anyone have any other related items to address?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay. Bonnie's just jumping ahead. I'll second that.
I got your list.
You get it. And
It's a
I know
beautiful
that,
day out there.
yep. Teresa, I know that Joe and I were going to have a little bit of a discussion with you after this about some questions pertaining to the newest ad hoc committee here in City Hall. And if you just stay on the line, we'll close the meeting, but we can have those discussions.
Okay.
After. Okay.
Very good.
So
See you,
excellent.
Teresa.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Got it. I will second the motion
everybody.
to adjourn. Then Bonnie, we have to vote to adjourn. So all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sounds excellent. Chris, thanks a lot. And you can close the meeting down.